Climbers, what does the movie industry have to do with whether or not you should be a niche artist or have more of a broad appeal? What does that have to do with anything? Oh my God, what can we learn from this? Well, stick around. That's what we're going to dig into today. Welcome to the Climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. C.L.I.M.B. Get it? That's what you're going to need. You get that audience kicking, you get some business happening, and everybody is going to bow down at your feet and want to work with you. It's not about your talent, it's about your leverage. That's why we called it The Climb. That's a backstream from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter as well. And he's got cuts and hits from artists like Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. He's got number ones in Southern Gospel, multiples. He's got top tens in Australia, top tens in Texas. But what you care about, what's important to you, is that he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, how you do business like a pro, and then on the regular, he successfully hooks you up with the pros to create a relationship. Relationships are born, and you're on your way, man, climbing up that ladder. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
Hey, buddy. Once again, a man that I disagree with half the time, but I read just about everything he puts out because he's got a lot of really amazing insight on tech, on the music business, and on Hollywood. So I've learned so much from his blogs. His name is Bob Lefsetz. We've talked about him many times on the show. And listen, the latest article he just put out all about the movie business, and he makes some connections to the music industry. But what I found fascinating was, and that's what we're going to unpack today, is just how much this pertains to me, what this article means, the underlying, the undertones of this is authenticity, man. It's like your license to stop chasing the deal, right? Which means you're going to have to be, looks, smell, sound, and act a certain way, and start trying to be as original as possible. And the more of a fringe kind of thing you are, the better chance that you have. And we're going to talk about why. I'm going to back it up, like with some of the stuff in this article, but I think it's given you the license to be free, to really do what you're supposed to do and go down that path and let them find you. Those people are going to find you because
they can,
man. Because they can, and you don't need anybody's permission. So it's really, really interesting. I think you're going to like this. But let's take care of a little business first. Join the Climb community on Facebook by searching in groups for the Climb community. You can do the search there, or go to facebook.com/groups/the Climb community. And you got to ask to be let in. We let everybody in unless you look shady, like you're trying to sell us something. But this is not the place to sell. This is the place to share. This is the place to add value. Your deal on siding and carpeting, not going to add value.
Nope.
Nope, nobody cares.
But they're not listening to this right now anyway, so they don't even know what we're talking about.
Exactly. They don't even know if this is all about the music industry or whatever.
Yeah.
But man, your peers are here and they've all got experience. And if you've got questions about recording, about writing, about marketing, about a co-write, man, all those questions have been asked and answered right there inside the Climb community. And you got questions like that, put it right in the feed, baby. And you're going to get a lot of love when it comes to talking about you and your awesome gifts. We want to support that too. We want to put that up on a pedestal. Just leave that stuff in comments on the post that we present for you. So your new songs go on New Music Monday. Put a comment in there. Give us a link to that song. Let us hear it. We want to check it out. You're going to get a lot of love, a lot of support. About your gigs, man. Where you playing out? We got Gig Alert every Thursday as a post. Put your comment in there. Let us know where you're playing. And our favorite here is Wednesday Wins, where we celebrate the wins. We celebrate the good stuff. Now, just to make it super confusing, that post is actually called New Heights. It happens every Wednesday, but Wednesday Wins is better because New Heights related to climbing, and it all correlates together. But Wednesday Wins, because we're talking about songwriters climbing, it's just got more alliteration. Sounds
I'll
cooler.
tell you, Johnny, this is what happened when I named that New Heights, because I made the graphic for that and named it, is I already put Wednesday in the Songwriting Pro private group. So to keep them distinct and separate in my
Ah,
brain, I did Wednesday Songwriting Pro private group for our members there, and I went New Heights with a climbing theme for.
and then I just barreled over you with the Wednesday
So
Wins
just
and just kept
get
saying that.
off my back, Johnny.
Because I'm like, well, I
If
can't
you
believe this
wanted
is a
a different
lyricist
name, you should have made
came
the
up with
graphic
New
yourself.
Heights. But anyway, what kind of wins we got? Because we celebrate those on the show, man.
That's right. That's right. We don't have time for all of them, but we do have a couple here. Let's see. Climber Heather Evans said, just got confirmation of 2 sync placements. So fun. Heather, when they're
Nice, Heather.
out, let us know where we can find them. We'd love to
Heather
hear that.
Evans, love
So
it.
when they drop, hit us up. Let us know where we can see them because maybe people already heard them. They're like, what? That's a climber. That'd be awesome. So congrats, Heather. Billy McDowell says, got 2 beach songs accepted to play on Floribama's iHeartRadio. Of course, it helps they were both sung by the tremendously talented Robert Abernathy Music. Beach Looks Good on You was written by Robert Abernathy, Kathy Wallace. Hey, I know Kathy. Julie Rainier, Heather Hickox, Paul Kofer, and I was lucky enough to be in the room. Bama Beachin' It was written by Sarah Peterson, Jack Sisk, and myself. So grateful for them. So good job, Billy. Good job, Heather. Congrats,
Good
and
job,
keep
Billy.
on climbing.
You know what? I feel like every week when we do this Wednesday Wins thing, like somebody's got to sync confirmation.
Yeah, more and more
Like I
sync going
feel
on.
like that's becoming like really commonplace. Like it's almost if like somebody doesn't have a sync, something's that's
Something's
weird if
missing.
they don't have a sync. If we don't have a sync to celebrate,
Right.
Um, so, not for nothing, lots of people getting syncs, people. So keep writing, keep recording, make that
Exactly.
miracle happen. There's money to be made. I love it. So follow the
Speaking of,
podcast,
yeah, I would say, speaking
and
of syncs and film and TV, we're about to talk about that, right?
yeah, that's right.
Film, yeah.
We're gonna go right into that. And make sure you tell a friend about it too. So Bob Lefsetz, guys, Lefsetz. I'll put the link for this one into the show notes. If you don't subscribe to this blog, it's a blog, and he's also got an incredible podcast. Then you should. I mean, all like everybody in the industry does, and has for quite some time. You may or may not agree with his politics. There's some things I think he's off on, but when he talks about the music business, I read everything. It's on. It's spot on. And tech as well, and also the movie business. So this is the title of actually the blog. It's called The Movie Business. So I'm going to read a little bit of this for you guys, and we're going to unpack this. And there's a lot of connections that he makes in this to the music industry as well. But I still see artists. It's almost like the more professional they are, the higher level they are, the more toxic they are in terms of the game, the method they're trying to use to get the deal right. They're trying to play the game the way the record labels want to play the game, and is the question. I should say the question is, are they playing the right game?
Mm-hmm.
We look up to them. These are the movie studios in Hollywood are the ones pulling the levers in Hollywood. Are they right or are they wrong? Well, let's get into it. So Bob says no one goes to a movie for the theater, and all the innovation investment has been on the exhibition side of the film business for the past 2 decades. And now the industry is paying the price. Also, for being out of touch with the changing world. right? All the verticals. It's about niches, narrower products appealing greatly to smaller groups. Instead, the film companies are making generic, broad based films, hoping to reach everybody. And when you try to appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody. The world keeps changing, and the film studios have not kept up. Not only did they miss the Netflix streaming tsunami, they have not kept up with the viewing habits of customers. Right? I'm going to say that again. They have not kept up with the viewing, AKA consumption habits of their customers. The studios have to provide something that can't be seen at home, something so important that it gets people to leave their houses and go to the theater just so they can experience the film and have the right to intelligently discuss it thereafter. However, most of the films being released are not worthy of discussion. Movies as religion has been on the decrease ever since Jaws and Star Wars. Jaws and Star Wars show the riches that can be rained down by a blockbuster. And then the studios only wanted to make blockbusters.
Hmm.
This is hurting the major labels right now. They're releasing fewer records, trying to appeal to everybody via marketing and promotion that is no longer effective as in the past, and their market share keeps being eaten by indies. Let that sink in, okay? This is a recipe for death. There will always be a couple of big acts, but if you're not in the process of cultivating and releasing high quality niche product, you're on the road to death. How come Netflix realizes this and no one else does?
Hmm.
Competitors keep criticizing Netflix for its plethora of product. And of course, not all of it is good, far from it. But it gives the subscriber options. And what I love that may keep me subscribing, 98% of other Netflix viewers might hate. But the one show for me, that one show, and that one show for others is enough to get us and keep us laying down our cash and making that subscription, which is different from the film business and theater exhibition. Look at software. It's gone from a sales model to a subscription model. The transition was wrenching, but Adobe now makes more money. Even Microsoft sells its software via subscription. I remember, Brent, when they used to have to buy the CD and download the software into your computer. It
Hmm.
came loaded on your computer from Dell, or from whoever made the computer. But now it's all subscription based, right?
Hmm.
I'm not saying subscription is the right way for film, but I am saying every flick is a heavy lift. Getting people off the couch to buy tickets and see movies at set times in an on demand world. In the rest of commerce, it's all about knowing your customer and having an ongoing relationship with them. And here, film has failed miserably. I go and I'm gone,
Hmm.
right? And Hollywood believes that fads never fade, just like the music business. Oof, let that sink in.
Hmm.
Remember when they all thought Guitar Hero was forever? No, you get in and ride the wave, and then you get out. Anybody who thought superheroes were forever is just plain dumb.
Hmm.
Just like the people who believe since sequels have a built in audience, it's best to pursue that angle. Well, traditionally, sequels do less business, and only a
Hmm.
handful of sequels were ever better than the original. Sheeple go to see the sequels and they're dissatisfied after the experience and therefore less eager to go to a movie in the future. There's no excitement around movies anymore. It's seen as a business as opposed to an art form.
Hmm.
I'm going to say that again. It's seen as a business as opposed to an art form. On this podcast, we talk about the business part of it because there's
Hmm.
too many artists that don't understand the business part of it, but there's nuance. You still need to approach your art for art's sake
Yeah.
from the angle of an artist. And then you got to think about the business. But if you're
Hmm.
making the art for the business. That's where it gets sterile, let's say. I
Mhm.
think that's probably a good word for it,
Yeah.
There's not a person in the world who respects David Zaslav, who is the CEO of Warner, who is so busy cutting to make his numbers that he's undercutting future revenue. And let's not get started with Paramount. Films sustained after the advent of television because they provided something that TV did not, right? We had movies before we had television, guys.
Mhm.
What did the films provide that television didn't provide? Grit, authenticity, dangerous topics. I love these three things for art, by the way. Uh, but then you could get nudity on HBO, and then The Sopranos was better than anything released in the theater. And it was a series. Who said filmed entertainment must be a one shot, 2 hour thing? If you truly hook your audience, you can go on forever.
Mhm.
And The Sopranos ended. That's the mantra of modern TV. You do it until there are no more storylines. In film, you do it until no one is willing to go to the theater long after creativity has left the building. Okay.
Mhm.
So he goes on to say, and this puts some good perspective on it, guys, because I think we need to pull everybody off of the way it used to be nipple. Okay. And you've got to realize like that ride is over. And if that's what you're focused on, if that's what your deep, if that's what you want deep down in your heart, you're digging in the wrong place, right?
Mhm.
So Bob goes on to say it was COVID that put movies in the dumpster. We're never returning back to normal. COVID killed the magazine and the movie. Quick, does your favorite magazine even exist anymore? I stopped renewing because every time I do, the title goes out of the business.
Hmm.
And the very few that sustain have changed their business model. Used to be you amped up circulation to charge the advertisers. In other words, you wanted a larger base to get more ad revenue. But that paradigm died. Now the title has to stand on its own, based primarily on subscription revenue. If you want the New Yorker, it's going to cost you a minimum of $150 a year, prohibitive for the casual reader or fan. Today, it's all about finding the dedicated fan and super serving them and charging them for the experience. Who are the dedicated fans of the movie business? Well, there's a cohort of youngsters who need somewhere to go without supervision, and the dying baby boomers who got into the habit in the 60s and the 70s. But other than that, think for
Mhm.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
The movies have no vibe. They don't connect overall, which is one reason the Oscars are a poorly rated joke. But it's not only the film business, but the film business infrastructure, i.e., the media hype machine. Do we really care about this competition? The young audience is much more interested in social media influencer culture, but big media abhors it, thinks the smartphone is the devil, and studio heads all think they're Samuel Goldwyn, who's been dead for 50 years. Never mind Robert Evans. Everybody in LA used to know the heads of the studios, they were royalty. Today, everybody knows Ted Sarandos, who's the CEO of Netflix, okay? He's an innovator, not riding on fumes, but continuing to innovate because in tech, if you don't, you die. But studios keep generating more of what came before. As for last summer's Barbenheimer, that was a one off, nearly impossible to replicate. Netflix was built on giving auteurs cash to make their pet projects. Ironically, the ones the studios refused to greenlight.
Mhm.
Whereas making a movie for a studio, all you get is interference if you get the budget to begin with.
Mhm.
You've got to change it as if the brass knows better than the creator. Well, that sound familiar, Brent?
Yeah, for sure.
In the music
Art by
industry? I
committee.
mean, yeah, all to say we are never going back to the past. Many things are not forever. Or if they come back, they do so with a twist. In order to thrive, films must be different, unique, must see, and they must have legs in conversation. If you want to break a movie today, you should platform it. Build excitement and as it goes from city to city, as opposed to opening in thousands of theaters on Friday and being gone in a matter of weeks. Today, everything is here. Today, everything is here today and gone tomorrow. To succeed, film must go a different way. To succeed, film must go a different way. Evanescence, right? Not the band, but
No.
the
I was
word,
like,
right?
yeah.
The push, the wave is an anathema to film. Sure, there's anticipation for some movies, but most need marketing, and the best way
Mhm.
to do this is to get the audience excited about it and let the word of mouth flourish. Stop railing against Rotten Tomatoes. What's next? Get rid of the star system on Amazon?
Yeah.
It too is imperfect, like Rotten Tomatoes, but eliminate it and the business tanks. You're asking people to lay down their money. They're supposed to do so blind.
Mhm.
That ship sailed with the advent of the internet. So, in order to survive, theatrical distribution requires many more movies with ever narrower appeal. Right? This doesn't mean that every film will do minor box office. You never know when something niche will blow up wide, like March of the Penguins or My Octopus Teacher. If you get it right on a narrow basis, people who are otherwise uninterested are intrigued. People are looking for excellence, credibility, heart. And that's what gets people off the couch, not what they've seen before. So this just hit resonated with me on so many levels in terms of artists in the music business.
Mhm.
Um, the album
Yeah.
is is not a it's not on the forefront anymore, right? Like
No.
there's a way that you can still have an album
Mhm.
because I like the idea of an album. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
the idea of that this was a grouping of work, a project of
Mhm.
different works put together
Yeah.
that signified that point in time of what the artist is going through, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and you can have your cake and eat it too. We do this with our distributor and our artists, right? We'll instead of dropping the album and dropping
Single.
and pushing a
Yeah.
single, if you will. I don't like that word, but
Well, we're talking old
because
school here, so
yeah, yeah. Instead of doing that, like, release every single song. Let's say if it's a 10-song album, release every single song 6 to 8 weeks apart. Give every
mhm.
single song a chance, and you build. It's kind of like what he said in there about the way movies should change, right? Instead of
Mhm.
going to wide release
Yeah.
in every theater, open it up in New York and let people see it, and then people can start talking about it, and then it goes on tour, and it brings
Mhm.
it to Philly, and then it brings it to, into the Midwest, into Chicago and Houston, and then out west to LA and San Francisco, and let that happen, and it builds, right?
Oh, one
And
thing
it's
that reminds me, I was reading in, I got a copy of Ray Stevens' My Nashville. It's his autobiography about the music business
Mhm.
and his life and stuff. And when the Mississippi Squirrel Revival came out, it started just
Uh,
because somebody like in Georgia, DJs just started playing it like on a rock station or whatever, like
yeah,
repeatedly.
yeah,
And it took off there. He goes, it never was a hit at radio, but what happened was like it blew up big in the Southeast. And then as that was dying off, then the people in the Southwest were like, "What's that thing?" And it moved over to the Southwest, and then it moved over here, the Northwest,
yeah,
and then it moved over to the Midwest and the North. And he goes, so it was just kept catching fire these different places for months and months, and like got him, awards and all that stuff for like comedy song of the year or whatever, or for Buddy Cab, the guy who wrote it with his wife. So it did that regional thing where it never was like a wide release, like here's the single, here's we're gonna run it up the chart or whatever. It was like it caught fire, and then
yeah,
you had then the fire spread to these different places.
yeah. I mean, I'm I get so frustrated with artists today because nobody seems to want to embrace the idea that you can't have enough content. You
Yeah.
know,
It
you can't have enough content. You have to do social media. You can't the excuse that I don't understand it. I don't like it. I don't,
mhm,
when somebody tells me I don't want to put pictures of my food up on social media, I'm like, I'm not sure what's worse that's your tip of the iceberg
mhm.
thought on what social media is, or that you thought it was smart to let me know that that's what you think. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
The artists
because
I
you're
talk
so far
to
up.
are mainly, like, just exhausted,
Yeah.
just tired, like, you know, I'm writing songs, I'm producing songs, I'm on the road
Yep.
playing songs live, and I gotta do a freaking content day.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And
So
you
the people I
do.
run with, that seems to be mainly the big thing. It's just like it's just a
And you know
big
what? In
chunk
the
of
music
time.
business, though, let me tell you something. In the music business, it's the venue changed, and actually the venue's a lot less tiring than the way it used to be
The radio
because you're out
tours.
on tour, and what do? You gotta go to the radio station.
Yeah,
You know, you're up playing your show the night before, you get done, you get on the bus, you're unwinding, you're not getting to bed till 4, but then you gotta be up 2, 3 hours later to
yeah,
get on the morning show when you get to the next market and go talk about that so you can sell a few more tickets to the
yeah.
show, man.
Or you're
And
doing
the
phoners.
radio tour was
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, I mean, you physically had to show up to do it, and now you can have that reach and have that influence, and
yeah.
you can do it from home, you know? The I for all intents and purposes, the music video is dead,
Mhm.
you know? It's certainly dead if you're an artist that has not doesn't have the gear to make the content yourself, and you gotta pay somebody, and you gotta
Yeah,
go outside to do it, it's dead. Whatever money you're paying, whether it's $1,000 or $5,000 or more for that video, it's not going to break you
right.
like Guns N' Roses was broke with, Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
It when it was a national platform that had 10, 20, 30 million viewers at any given time, that can friggin' break you and your song's in rotation, right?
Yep.
But nobody's gonna watch that video more than twice, so your money is better spent creating as much micro content as you can, and what can you do with that? How can you make that work, you know? The game has changed, and if you don't change with it, you're it's you can't be a rock star, you can't be a guitar god and say that, "Give me 5 reasons why you can't get a guitar or an amp."
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's really that silly. Like, it's part of your job requirement.
Mhm.
If you intend to be successful, and by that, I mean just eke out a living in
Yeah.
this business, you're gonna have to do the marketing, and you're gonna have to understand how those algorithms work, and if you don't, okay, then I mean, go and find a couple courses, go
Yeah.
learn. It's
Mhm.
out there. You can go find it. It's not even expensive. In some cases, it's free,
Mhm.
but you got to look for it. You got to want to look for it. You got to want to be like, okay, I need to, as much as I want to master songwriting,
Yeah.
I'm also going to need to master social media
Mhm.
and figure out how to do this, what works and what doesn't work. And guess what? It's always changing.
Yep.
So you got to get on that horse and you got to figure out how to ride it. And then you got to just embrace the idea that tomorrow the rules are going to change.
Yep.
Like I used to be frustrated about that with Facebook, but then it just became silly to be frustrated because it's like they're going to move the cheese tomorrow. And,
Yeah.
so just to have faith in the fact that as long as you know that you need to find the cheese and you know where it used to be
Mhm.
and you know what cheese you need to find, you'll figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And make that happen. And when in doubt, God, YouTube, just go and Google it on YouTube. Like,
Right, yeah.
how do I do this in the new Facebook version? Or I do it in
Mhm.
Premiere Pro all the time. How do I figure this out? How do I figure that out? But you're gonna have to edit. But I will say this, going back to the music video, like even if you can make all the content, I don't think anybody who's done 2 or 3 music videos in a row, uh, and so it's just sweat equity, right? If you've got the
Mhm.
gear and you can however it is that you're gonna make that music and do that whole music, but the time and the effort and the creative energy you're gonna have to put into that music video to have it come out and do essentially nothing, and
Mhm.
it basically behaves as a piece of micro content,
Yeah.
until you get a bigger audience,
Mhm.
until your brand gets to a certain level, it doesn't, it doesn't help you. And I think so many people are like, well, that's what the industry wants to see. And guess what? They're right.
Mm,
But the industry doesn't freaking get it either. Like, we've been preaching that for quite a while now. But
mhm,
here it is where Netflix was really the change that that was the catalyst for the change that got Hollywood as far along as it is now.
uh-huh,
Without Netflix, the NBC, ABC, CBS, Paramount, they don't have their own streaming services and
right,
they don't know who their customer is.
mhm,
They're still doing it the old way, right?
right,
Um, but Netflix was the one that made that happen. But in Hollywood, I've always said is farther along on this transformational journey to digital
mhm,
than the music business is. But the music bit like, here Bob is talking about, like, how the movie studios that are still trying to play the theater game
mhm,
just have it wrong, okay? And they're not really making any money, and they're wearing it out, and they're digging in the wrong holes, right? Trying to get the
mhm,
big, broad superhero movies and trying to make that work as opposed to those little niche projects where let's go get some grit. Let's go get something different than what Netflix is offering.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Or Hollywood. They're not going to see it because this is what they know. They have relationships with the theaters. Like, this is the game they know how to play,
mhm,
right? And it's the same when you think about that in the context of how much Hollywood's evolved to the digital platform, and you realize that the music business still doesn't know who
yeah,
their customer is, right? And if you want to look good for them, to what end?
right. What's that
To
gonna
what
do for
end?
you? Yeah,
When I work with higher level artists like that, that's a that's always a rub between us. It's like,
mhm,
well, we need to do this and this and this so we look better to the industry. And I'm like, the industry, in quotation marks, as you put it, gives a crap about traffic,
mhm,
and they think they know what they're looking for, but they really don't,
right,
right?
yeah,
Because how many artists have come in with just a boatload of traffic that don't fit, that would never gotten a record deal before?
yep,
Because maybe they don't look right,
mhm,
right? Maybe they're overweight.
yeah,
Maybe they're, I mean, how the hell does Jelly Roll make it, you know?
yeah,
It's not because everybody thought he was talented in Warner. I'll tell you, there was a million people around there when they first became aware of Jelly Roll. Wait, this guy's like an addict and a criminal, and he's got tattoos on his face, and he's significantly overweight, and we're gonna do what? No, 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 that's never gonna sell.
right,
That's never
yeah,
gonna sell. Just like those same people were telling Cody Johnson that, you gotta ditch the cowboy hat
right,
because that
yeah,
doesn't work anymore. It's like, man, no, you know?
mhm,
Like, the audience is what matters, and so what are you going to do to get the audience? And stop following the path of the way that you were marketed to. 'Cause they just keep doing it,
yeah,
They just keep doing it. Record labels, it's all built on radio, and
mhm,
everybody pulling the levers in the music industry that you think can change your life is gonna try to package you to go on radio,
yeah,
which means all that compromise Bob was talking about in the article,
yeah,
right? The interference.
mhm,
"Yep, no, we gotta do it this way, we don't wanna rock the boat on radio,"
yeah,
but man, it's, get go get beat up making crappy micro content until you figure out how to make good micro content,
yeah,
right? Do what you need to do. Figure out how to make that work, and when you do that, then you're gonna be able to work with those entities, but have the leverage to, uh, to do it your way and
yeah.
not their way,
I mean, I'd
and
say,
hopefully you've got the backbone.
I'd say Casey Musgraves is doing all right. She's not on radio anymore, at least mainstream
That's
country
right.
radio. She was for a hot minute. But man, the music's just cool and it's
Yeah.
different. And of course, the Grammys love her.
Yep.
She's severe Grammy bait, but because they like the country stuff that's different. If anything else, just because it's not what regular country's doing, I think they like that stuff. But it's also
Yep.
very quality, and she pulls
Yeah.
in great collaborators, great writers, great people because one, they dig the art of it, and it's making money. Like it's I don't know what her numbers are, but it's cash flow positive. You get a Casey Musgraves cut, you're making some money,
I
right?
can promise you Casey Musgraves is making a very comfortable seven-figure living.
Yeah, she's making money. Like, what do you, if you're a songwriter on the project, you're cash flow positive. It's a good day. And I'm sure for those people, it's artistically fulfilling
Yeah.
because it's very artistic. It's not just like, here's your cookie cutter thing.
And that, like that's what you just touched on. That's really huge. Like, I mean, Casey Musgraves, the poster child for somebody who just not trying to make art that will get on radio.
Mm-hmm.
She's just making art for art's sake, right? She's
Yeah.
just trying to be herself, trying to do her thing,
Mm-hmm.
and make that work. And she's also getting paid for it,
Yeah.
you know.
I
And I
mean,
think the same thing for Luke Combs, and the same
mhm.
thing for wow, it's amazing how many like bearded, not so pretty boy mega artists have
Yeah.
come out of the woodwork as soon as the decisions about whether or not they could reach their audience were taken away from the record labels
Mhm.
that you're trying to do business with.
Right. I mean, I have a friend, Stella Prince, that I'm writing with. She's what she calls herself Gen Z folk. And because
Uh-huh.
she's young, she's like 20, maybe something like that. And she's really young. And so Chelsea Stallings, I've been writing with her. And my friend Shri Spoltori turned me on to her. And she's doing that folk thing. And those are fun writes because one, she's a sweetheart. She's intelligent. She's mature. She has great chops. She's a heck of a singer, heck of a writer. And she's out there working her butt off and creating this thing that's working and growing.
Mhm.
And for me as a writer, yeah, most of what I do is country or Southern gospel or whatever. It's fun to go, let's go down this lane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this seems like a good part of a portfolio. Like, oh, this could be one of like cool projects that he's on. Who
Mhm.
knows how much economic activity that's going to be on. She's still a baby artist, but she's playing Europe and she's playing all over the US, and she's
Wow.
like, okay, for that world, she's rising and doing well.
Yeah.
And so I look at that going as a writer, going, that's cool and that's worth my time. I like her. I believe that she's in it to win it. Like in it for the long
Mhm.
haul. She's gonna have a career,
Mhm.
and she does interesting stuff,
Yeah.
and that's fun. Like, oh, I don't usually get to color with those crayons.
Yeah.
Let's go do that.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're that artist, it's going to be attractive to higher level writers too, because, well, for one thing, she already had a thing going on. Like, oh, this is what I'm kind of
Yep.
can get on board with, right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't starting from scratch to this nobody, no name, nothing, just writing my first songs, but I think I'm going to be this thing. No, it's like she's already doing a thing. I could go listen to her. Go, oh, that's cool and really different. Okay, let's just see if I can be a part of that and add some value to it. And it's interesting and it's a fun write. It's an enjoyable write.
Yeah.
And it's like, who knows? This could be one of those almost like those, prestige projects or those artistic, you talk about it on Netflix, like the auteur, like, oh, this could be something
Yeah.
that wins some stuff. It may not go
Yes.
hang a platinum on your wall or who knows, but it could also like get respect going, oh, that's a cool project to be part of. There's value
Yeah.
like that for a writer like me to go, oh, this can be art that I'm proud of and that people think is pretty cool. And I enjoy the
Yeah.
day in the process and the artist.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I
And so
mean,
you can be more
I think
attractive
of
as
like
an artist that way as well.
one of my besties that I grew up with, Mike Ansovic. We started our first band together in 7th grade.
Mhm.
And I mean, he was the first guy that came over to my house with a guitar. He had an electric guitar and he brought it to my house. And we didn't have an amp. We just plugged it into the stereo system. And it was this big, huge PV thing. And I was like, that is the coolest effing thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, let
Yeah,
me touch that. Let me touch that. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I just have to get my hands around that. It was amazing. And he is arguably like one of the top 10 ad guys in the country. So
Mhm.
very creative,
Yeah.
went down the advertising route. He now has his own agency he's had, I think, for maybe the last 8 years, but for a long time, he was at all the biggest agencies, and one of the biggest ones called Mullen. Well, what's so funny is so that's like being his version is like he's on a major label,
Mhm.
right? That
Yeah.
there's the difference. So and it comes with all the compromise in the art. He's got big, huge corporate They like he did. If you remember when, just to give you an idea how big he is, if you remember when Sirius and XM Radio merged
Okay.
and became one company, they had all those cool ads with David Bowie and Elton John
Mm.
and Snoop Dogg, and they were in those ads. That was all his stuff, right?
Yeah.
But when it gets that big, and back in that time, this is in the '90s, like it's so corporate, right? It's
Mhm.
gotta be cool but sterile, and, like,
Yeah.
all the really cool ideas they came up with were not broad enough or sterile enough to put on the big broadcast platforms, and so, what he would do on a regular basis would be to take, like, some mom and pop shop that has a product or some kinda widget and who could never afford him, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, way under we're not talking about like an $80 million ad spend. We're talking, maybe a $10,000 ad spend at the most. But
Yeah.
then he gets carte blanche to do what he wants artistically. You know what I mean? So, from a songwriter perspective, because we got so many songwriters that listen to the pod, like, if you're not the artist and you're
Mhm.
the songwriter, man, you got to sell this to the labels, right? You've got to
Mhm.
sell this to those artists there, and you've got to play that game, but you also need to have an artist date and take a break and go over here and do the art for art's sake,
Yeah.
where it's like not just about, like you were just saying, Brent, it's just not about, um, well, if Blake Shelton isn't going to pick it up, we're wasting our time. No, man, just do something that just so freaking cool. Because
Mhm.
by the way, in the unlike advertising in the music industry, I take it back. It is like advertising because here's the funny thing. I can't remember, I think they're called Peabody Awards or something, or I'm screwing that. There's
The
some big
Grammys
award
for ads.
for advertising.
Yeah.
The Grammys for ads, he never fricking wins those from the corporate
Yeah.
companies. He wins those from the mom and pop shops where he has the carte
Mhm.
blanche to do what he wants to do. He gets those awards, and those awards are what bring the freaking corporate people. They're
Right.
like, we want you to do that, but way less cool, like more sterile.
Yeah.
Because we're
Exactly.
big, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's like all the interference that he's talking about, it's that same thing artistically. So, guys, man, let go. You don't want to go to a label now and not have leverage. Like, it's just the worst thing that can happen is they're going to say yes, and you're
Mhm.
just going to be miserable. The only way you want to entertain a label is if it's completely on your terms, and the only way that that's going to happen is if you have enough leverage.
Yeah.
Which means you've got a big enough audience, and the way that you're going to reach that audience it's not working for labels anymore. I mean, the
Mhm.
labels have moved from the superstar business model to signing 30 artists who have huge TikTok and YouTube accounts.
Yeah.
And what are they trying to do with them? Trying to freaking break them on radio. You know what I
Alright.
mean?
Yeah.
And a few of them happen. And what you have to realize now is that the Lainey Wilsons and who I love,
Mhm.
and the Morgan Wallens who I love, they're the exception to the rule now,
Yeah.
but they feel like the way it's always done because they were made the way it was always done,
Yeah.
They broke the way they always but it's not what's that's not what's happening. That is the exception to the rule, and so, like, Bob said, there's always gonna be big acts, right? There's
Mhm.
always gonna be a one big movie
Yeah.
that is, God bless them for that, but that's not the way the market is, and you need to see that big picture when you're making decisions about where you're gonna spend your money, where you're
Mhm.
gonna spend your creative energy, your time, your blood, sweat, and tears, where you're gonna fail until you succeed,
Yeah.
because, trying to, groom your brand to be appealing to the record industry, is a bad road. Like,
Yeah.
don't do it. Like, just do your thing.
Mhm.
Figure out what that thing is and get a friggin' audience,
Yep.
and they will come a calling to you, and then you can have the conversation that, Cody Johnson had with John Esposito over at
Mhm.
Warner, where he's like, "Okay, look, like, you're gonna be on Warner. What's it gonna take? Here's my list of demands."
Yeah.
They're like, "Fine, let's
Yeah,
do
yep.
it." You know what I mean? Like, that's where you wanna be sitting, and it's never been more possible now than it was before. We were talking at the beginning of this episode. Seems like every frigging week, somebody's got some sync, somebody's making some
Mhm.
money. More and more people are making money from music now than ever before without needing a lawyer, a label,
Yep.
you know, a major studio budget,
Mhm.
or any of those things. So think like that, guys. Embrace the social media. Like, go find out how to do it, and you got to put out the content. That's the only way this is going to work for you.
Mhm.
You're not going to break on radio.
Yeah.
You're not. So waiting for that bigger ticket to come and happen to you is I worry sometimes, like the next generational artist like Prince is out there,
Yeah.
but with the wrong set of instructions, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
All the right art and the wrong set of instructions on how
Right.
to do this, right? Or they're just lazy, right?
Mhm.
They're like, I'm not gonna do it, it's a lot of work. Well, yeah, it's a lot more work the old way,
Yeah.
believe me, it is. So, anyway, you got anything to add to that? Because that's all I gotta
I'll
say.
say, it's gonna be hard work either way, so you can work hard and have a chance to win, or you can work hard and fail. So, if you're gonna work hard either
Yeah.
way, both are hard.
Yep, both are, and so here it is. All the magic that you want to happen in your career can be found in the work that you're avoiding.
Yep.
There it is, guys.
Mhm.
So, hey, man, if you want some help sort of uncoupling from the old marketing machine and trying to get some new ideas and new ways to look at the way it's happening now, then go to giftfromjohnny.com. I've got a gift for you. That's why I called it Gift from Johnny.
Yeah.
JOHNNY, giftfromjohnny.com. Tell me where to send it. This is a stout, man, I think it's like 30 plus page
Mhm.
PDF document. There's lots of pictures, don't worry. But it just explains like how broadcast marketing worked and why it worked, because it certainly worked, and why it's not working now,
Mhm.
and also how digital works, and why broadcast tactics don't work on a digital platform. My goal in that whole document is just to get you asking the right questions. Like, okay, if they're only going to see my music video twice and I need to get to 7, then
Yeah.
how do you do that? Precisely. Okay,
Yep.
good. Now go forth into the woods
Yeah.
and bring me back, a shrubbery. Like,
Woo.
but anyway, guys, yeah, so giftfromjohnny.com. Just tell me where to send it. It's called Whoever Owns the Traffic Rules the Road, because that is the name of the game. Now, make no mistake about it. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.